Hello and welcome. Thank you for everyone who is attending today. My name is Jacob, and I'm going to be talking about AI and market research and whether we should be considering it a friend, a foe, or pure folly. And I think what we're going to see is, at least the answer today, is all the above and maybe a lot more. Just to set the tone of this, I know that there's a very good chance for many who are listening today that this is not your first webinar on the topic of AI or even artificial intelligence as it relates to market research. This is the buzziest of buzzy topics right now. So I want to acknowledge right off the bat, Zeldis Research is not presenting itself as any kind of expert in the field of artificial intelligence or its applications. It's really more my intention for the next few minutes to peel away some of the smoke and mirrors and to present the point of view of a working market researcher at a firm that specializes in healthcare and financial services, and kind of talk just at a very practical level of what AI usage looks like right now and what we expect in the near future, as opposed to the most cutting edge of vaporware, which really is not my concern at the moment. So let's go on and get started by just acknowledging this topic is absolutely everywhere at the moment. Since the beginning of this year, whatever news sources or social media you consume has probably been blowing up with think pieces and points of view about artificial intelligence, about what it will mean, about what it might have to say about the industry, and market research is no exception. Research vendors, clients, trade groups, thought leaders are all scrambling to understand the implications and best practices that will guide AI usage as it pertains to market research, to consumer and B2B data collection, to the reporting and understanding of marketing inputs. So at this time, it's very much a work in progress, as I think you're probably also seeing in your day-to-day work. One of the things that's a testament to this topic and just how in flux it is, quite a few of these slides have been rewritten repeatedly just over the last couple of weeks, because this topic is evolving so quickly that anything you have to say about it becomes dated very quickly. A couple of days ago, this slide was headlined, AI is becoming very big business. And before that, it was headlined, AI will become very big business. So all within a shift of a few weeks. I think at this point, it's safe to say that AI is already very big business. A lot of the conversation so far this year has been focused on ChatGPT and, to a lesser extent, Microsoft and Google offerings in generative AI, but there are a lot of players jumping into this space. And I showed just a few, but there's a new one every week, it seems. And we're also seeing market research specific applications popping up and starting to assert themselves. And we'll talk a little in a moment about some of those. With all this swirl and activity, obviously everyone has a point of view, but for those who have attended multiple webinars and seminars and read trade mags on this topic, I think we are starting to see a bit of a consensus form, some conventional wisdom. And if you've played with these tools and been in the sandbox and kicked around, I think it kind of holds true. The first thing that is definitely coming out loud and clear is that we should consider AI tools as just that. They're tools. Generative AI is nowhere near a place where it can just step in and replace the human market researcher. But there is room for experienced researchers to leverage AI to work better, faster, smarter. it still requires a knowledgeable researcher to inspire a chatbot with smartly asked questions and to curate the output into useful content. I think the next piece of conventional wisdom that we're rapidly seeing come into focus is that AI yields a first draft of whatever you're doing. And in most cases, you can continue to refine what comes out of an AI tool. You can iterate, or you can ask a smarter, better question. But at some point, you hit a point of diminishing returns, and no amount of questioning, no matter how smartly worded, is going to get a better answer than you're already looking at. And at that point, it's up to the researcher to edit a go-forward version that can be useful. And the last thing that I think we're all hearing and becoming aware of is that these are, in fact, fallible tools. There's been a lot of buzz around the topic of hallucination, the famed story of the attorney who turned in a brief including fictional case precedents from that ChatGPT spat out at him. The current generation of AI chatbots are eager to please, and they will give a good shot at answering almost any question, but it simply cannot be taken for granted that the answers are correct. And as researchers, it's still very much our responsibility to use our judgment, to cite resources, and obviously to proof and check anything before we let it out into the wild. So what I think would be a very useful approach as we pull back and we start to parse these various tools and ask how are they going to affect our workflows, and what does all of this mean today? I think it's useful to start to put together a bit of a framework so that as we look at any particular AI tool or application, we can slot it in and sort of understand where it stands in relation to today. And I don't claim that there's anything groundbreaking about this, but I think it's useful to look at any given AI tool in terms of falling into one of three tiers. The first tier I'm calling low-hanging fruit, and these are just common repetitive research tasks that can be augmented with free or off-the-shelf generative AI tools. And yes, I'm mostly talking about ChatGPT, but certainly not exclusively. These are the things that with very little effort, maybe you can just make your life a little bit better and keep moving forward a little faster. Beyond that, there's a second tier where research vendors and research infrastructure companies are taking AI tools and customizing them and integrating them into their workflows. They're embedding AI functionality into survey platforms, into qualitative platforms. So that's what I'm referring to as tier two. One of the biggest distinctions between tier one and tier two is what I'm calling tier two or customized tools. They tend to function more within a walled garden. And to some extent, they address, or at least they have the potential to address, more compliance and privacy issues than tier one tools, where you're just going to a chatbot that's available online with or without a subscription and asking it questions, hoping that whatever you say stays between you and the bot. And then there is tier three. We're all hearing a lot of very big promises, but some of them are still very much over the horizon. Will they stay there, or will they come to fruition? That's to be seen. But this is just a really simple way of thinking about any given topic that comes our way. I'm going to get into some examples of each, but first, I think it is very important that we honor the reality of the situation we all find ourselves in as research vendors, as clients, as marketers. There are still very big compliance and regulation questions hanging over the entire AI conversation. There's huge uncertainty right now, legal, regulatory, and ethical ramifications of using AI. We know that legislation is being proposed and considered at state, national, and international levels. But at this moment, there is still very little guidance. Industry groups and lobbyists are trying to influence that process and building out best practices. But at this point, it's still a little thin. I was involved in a webinar back in June, and in this topic, June is forever ago when we're talking about artificial intelligence tools. But a couple of months ago, I was in a webinar hosted by the Insights Association, in an informal but well responded to straw poll of the attendees suggested that about a quarter of market research vendors had formal or written policies regarding AI. But in the time since then, I know Zeldis has gone from being a no to a yes in that topic. And I imagine a lot of companies are very quickly catching up, trying to build their own policies into what is acceptable and what is not. It's important to keep in mind that the intellectual property and privacy issues behind several AI tools can be very opaque. We don't necessarily want to be training AIs with personally identifiable information, with privacy concerns, with medical or financial. So we have to be very careful what we put into a chatbot window, and we can't just naively assume that it stays where we put it. For that reason, companies like Zeldis are putting these tools through the same kind of rigorous compliance review that we would for any new vendor that we began to work with. So having said that, let's start looking into these 3 tiers. And I also have here the first of a few AI-generated pieces of clip art that I'll be sprinkling through this deck as just one more demonstration of the capabilities that are out there. This is what happens when you ask DALL-E, OpenAI's image generative AI, to show you the silhouette of a person reaching up to pick red apples from a tree branch from a distance against a white background. And what you get is this guy picking something round off of a crepe myrtle, apparently, but you know, it's coming along. The low-hanging fruit or tier 1 area is where we see many applications where a researcher can save time by augmenting their experience with current free or inexpensive tools like ChatGPT. And some applications this include developing research instruments, framing language, and writing programming code. We'll take a look at some examples of each of those. In the realm of building a questionnaire, when authoring a questionnaire or discussion guide, it's very important to create exhaustive lists that we provide choices that anticipate the range of respondents' likely answers. Obviously, we lean on qualitative research and our industry expertise and experience to do this, but an AI chatbot can help brainstorm an exhaustive list of answer choices, whether it's a familiar or unfamiliar category. So, for instance, one might go to a chatbot and say, give me a list of reasons that seniors might select Medicare Advantage policy. Give me a list of reasons that financial advisors would suggest universal life insurance, or that a nonprofit organization really should have D&O coverage. Obviously, we're never going to take chatbot output and plug it right into a questionnaire unexamined, but this is a really good way to start building out your list of possibilities and to make sure that you're not forgetting something obvious or rolling things up into categories. So that's one good application. Let's consider also the possibility of an AI tool in framing language for a specific audience. It's one thing to know what you want to ask, but another thing to put it in just the right words for an intended audience. And one place where AI applications can excel is suggesting phrasing and word choice appropriate for a target respondent. So suppose you have a question and you want to make sure that it's phrased in a way that would be appropriate for medical doctors, or for a high school student, or for a non-native English speaker. You want to check your language to make sure that you are being sensitive to the sensibilities of a marginalized group. So again, we're not going to take what AI spits our way and just put it in unconsidered, but there is the potential here that the AI will consider something that we had not. A third example here in Tier 1, the low-hanging fruit style of AI usage, is to generate computer code. I'm not a computer programmer, and the classes that I took in Fortran and Pascal in high school are certainly not doing me any good these days. So just as a chatbot is not ready to replace researchers, the consensus out there is also that they're not yet ready to replace software engineers, but a chatbot can spit out a useful line of code here and there in a programming language that you need some help on. So SPS syntax that can run a multivariate analysis, a JavaScript that can customize a question within Qualtrics, an Excel VBA code that can automate a spreadsheet. These are all good examples of the kinds of things that we can ask a generative AI to produce for us. And what's nice about these is there's no concern around hallucination. The proof is in the pudding. As soon as you get the script, you plug it in, and if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it's usually pretty evident immediately. So these have been some examples of what I'm calling Tier 1. Let's move into Tier 2. So these are custom applications that exist today. And within that toolbox, we find, if we ask DALL-E to produce a picture of it anyway, we find some very strange tools, wrenches that at first glance appear to pass muster, but any of you who are home improvement DIYers will very quickly realize that none of those wrenches would actually do much for you. Both legacy market research vendors and new startups are rolling out tools specifically targeting the market research industry. Some of the things that we've seen, tools that can summarize qualitative interviews, the coding of open-ended verbatim comments, which, if you're like me, is not your favorite way to spend an afternoon. Data quality is a hot topic right now. Can we use chatbots to spot and root out each other to avoid fraudulent survey responses? And even some examples of using AI tools to take a segmentation and allow it to evolve over time with new information. Anyone who was at the Quarks New York City event last month could be forgiven for thinking that it was an AI conference. My coworker, Amy Ray, was there, and she brought back just a few pictures of all of the AI swag scattered around the vendor area. So obviously there is no shortage of vendors that are already in the trenches offering tools like this. One of the areas with the most apparent promise here in Tier 2 of tools that are out there now is summarizing qualitative. So if you're on this call, there's a good chance that you've spent time wading through transcripts of IDIs and focus groups. So why not feed those into an AI and start querying the chat bot with questions about that data set? Given any group of transcripts, what do heavy users think of one of the concepts? What brands are most trusted? Can you pull out for me some short quotes that illustrate the point? Our own internal compliance process at Zeldis has just recently cleared us to go ahead and use a couple of tools by a couple of vendors in this space. Although the actual experience of using the tool, comparing that to the expectation, we haven't necessarily found a perfect fit yet. So this is still very much an area, even though these tools exist today, there's still a lot of room to improve. Looking further along, we see tier 3. We see the AI tools that are yet to come. And obviously, your imagination is the only limit here. But to me, there's really just one sort of acid test. If we really want to get serious, those who are familiar with Alan Turing's famous imitation game or the Turing test, can we tell a person from a computer? And if the answer is no, then we deem it to be intelligent, or that was Alan Turing's his conclusion on the matter. So if we take that at face value, I think the gold standard is obviously AI moderators. Now, we're not there yet, but that's when I'll really be convinced that we have a fully functional artificial intelligence that is ready to take over the world and enslave us all to its nefarious plots. There obviously is no such thing at the moment as an AI focus group moderator, although I did ask OpenAI to draw me some cartoons of what that might look like. We do know that there are AI-powered applications that can conduct routinized customer service chats, that can drive automated voice navigation on phone systems, but those are a very far cry from the flexibility and the nuance required to run a focus group or an in-depth interview. For now, AI moderators are still in the future, but it doesn't particularly seem like pure science fiction either to think about that being something that might come about. Some other applications that we've heard kicked around but are still on the horizon. Recruitment. If an AI can't moderate a focus group, can we just hand the recruitment to it? Will a bot be able to find us good respondents and then hand it off for another bot to interview? Will the bots be the respondents? Will we have bots finding bots for bots to interview? And another area that gets a lot of discussion is report writing. There's nothing new about the idea of software taking data and spitting out automated bar charts and graphs and slides for us. But I haven't seen anything yet that is producing a report ready to be handed over to a client. So is that something that we will see one day? Because this topic is moving so quickly, these things are going to be in constant flux for quite a while. The things that, the tools that are available right now in Tier 2 are going to get better and better. They're going to migrate into Tier 1 and become more readily available. Things that today are over the horizon are going to be tomorrow's reality. Eventually, I suspect that AI is going to fade into the background, and much like web search is today, it's going to become a miracle that's so commonplace that we hardly notice when it happens. over time, the definition of AI will become increasingly blurry. Right now, as people come up with AI tools, they're very eager to splash the term around. But as it becomes ubiquitous, I suspect that AI is going to be something that goes without saying. It's going to fade into the background. And the distinction between smart and dumb tools is going to become less and less. So that is the Zeldis point of view at this point on artificial intelligence within the market research workspace and where we think we're standing at the moment.